we're going to start with what other fly than the pink shrimp. Grayling are well known for taking bright coloured flies, and one of the colours that we most associate with grayling is pink, and the ideal fly for that is shrimp. And the reason we use shrimp, it's a great fly for getting down deep. Quite often it doesn't snag up on the bottom of the river, so it's good for targeting grayling, which are typically sat down near the bottom of the river, usually on clean gravel. So it's quite a nice place to target them. But generally, winter means higher flows, so higher volume of water. So we really want to make sure that we've got flies that are going to get us down to it. So starting off with a shrimp, nice and easy when you're shopping for shrimp hooks is they quite often write shrimp hook. But any sort of curved hook is good for this. And here I've got the Partridge K4AY SE. So SE for the straight eye version. If it's a down eye grub or shrimp hook, that's absolutely fine as well. I've only recently gone over to the straight eye versions, and they're doing really well for me. Then I've got some simple lead wire. This is 0.37 mil, and it's perfect, just oval lead wire. And we're going to start by making a wire base. Because wire's incredibly easy to break, what I try and do is just rotate it round with my fingers, not clamping it, because that can sometimes mean that it twists and then breaks off halfway along the shank of the hook, which is not quite what we want. You can use your fingernails to push the wire segments together. That will help take up any gaps that might have formed when you're wrapping it round. So you want a good base there. Trim that out, and then using your thumbnail, if you've got thumbnails hopefully, you can just press against the wire and it will actually break off. Even on this is a size 12 hook. You should have just about enough body length to actually give yourself a second wire tier. That just helps give you a bit of extra weight, but what it also helps you do, a bit more of a faff to get this on. What it also helps you do is build the shape of the shrimp that will be higher in the middle and tapering off either side. Once you've got your wire on there, we're going to start with our thread, which here is the Semperfli wax thread in 12-0 in shell pink. So sticking with that pink theme, we'll just start the thread right by the eye of the hook. Keep this tag relatively long because we're going to use it to not put too much pressure on the wire. We don't want it to separate. And take it down all the way and build a second buffer stop there. The last episode where we looked at shrimp patterns will have seen me do this several times on shrimp patterns, and there's also some great grayling flies, but here we're going to look at a couple of different ones. So we've got our thread round, and now we're just crossing it over on that wire. That will just stop any material slipping through when we come to tying it down later. Now we're going to put in our shrimp back material, which here I've got the Semperfli ultra thin skin back in 3mm, and this is the pink colour. Anyone that misses any of the materials this evening, I've popped them all down in the description below, so you can pop there at any time and review the materials at any point. And now what we're doing with that back is just cutting a point, and you'll see there now, so it's got a pointed edge, and we tie that pointed edge in, and the reason we do that is it stops any bulk being built up, but also when we first turn that back forward, it means that we don't have the material wrapping around the whole hook. So trap that down, and then for this particular style of fly, I'm now going to take my thread all the way to the front, whereas a lot of my shrimp patterns are dubbed. This one we're now going to use dirty bug yarn. It's great. It's a two strand yarn, and it's got a wonderful blend of colour. There's some creams, some pinks. This particular colour referred to is called Salmon, but it's actually a great shrimp colour, and it's been working really well recently. And we tie this in reverse, and the easiest way I find to tie these in is to take the material underneath the shank of the hook and then use the weight of the bobbin to slide the material into place. You want to try and keep this tag as short as possible, clamp down with that thread, and then the reason we're keeping that short is so we don't have to cut any material. It's great, it means that your material lasts longer, but it also means that you're not having to make any extra cuts when they're not needed. So taking that thread forward, you will find that yarn at this point catches every now and again, but just toss it back so it's facing forward. The turns don't need to be touching over the wire, and take it right back to the yarn net, to the shell back. Right, now as we turn, these two threads will just naturally come apart, and you'll start to find that you've got the two strands. So try and keep the turns touching and work your way back. This will be the most challenging turn. You can sometimes get a bit of a jump down when you go over the two segments of wire, so you might require just a second one on top of it just to hold the position, and the same on that particular leap there. And then when you get to your final turn, bring it up, and I find that it's really important that you tie this off on top of the fly. Bring your thread up and over twice, then bring the yarn forward once around there, and then bring the thin skin and the yarn forward, put one turn through, and hang the thread down on your side of the hook. That keeps everything out of the place. It makes sure that everything's locked and it's not going to unravel at any point. And then you can cut the remainders of that yarn out, and there you have your nice shrimpy body material. Now we just have to do the back, and again, anyone that viewed last week will see that I do this quite a lot. One turn behind the back again, and then throw your first segment in using your thread, then a second, and keep doing that. And the great reason for using the thread is at any point you can just unwind it a little bit, reposition the back, and put your pressure back on. So it gives you extra control. And we've opened the segments up as we've gone, and now we're past the middle. We're going to start making the segments a bit smaller as we go, and until our final one by the eye. We'll put two over the top, fold that back, two in front, make sure everything's held in position there, and start trimming that back out just with the tip of your scissors. That will make sure it's a really nice flush cut. And then neaten it off with a few thread turns. Find your whip finish tool, pop it round, and that's pretty much there. As you know, I always do a second one just for luck, extra security when you're on the river. And there we have it. The old classic pink shrimp, tied in a slightly newish style, one that I actually was inspired by my good friend and a wonderful fly tyer called Gareth Lewis. Anyone who's come across his work on the internet will know that it's utterly fantastic, and if you're yet to find it, make sure you do find him, because some of his flies will make you sick that they're so good, but many of them will inspire you to further your own fly tying. And this was one of the patterns that I saw him do not so long ago. I thought I'd give it a go, and as soon as I took it to the river, it worked straight away. So thank you, Gareth. And there we have it, the pink shrimp, an oldie, a goodie, and a perfect one for grayling.